I like this picture of a Vietnam operative taken in the mid-1960s. Here he's got his car, M16, a couple frag grenades, a couple smoke canisters, tiger stripe uniform. Chances are he was either a special forces dude, maybe Navy SEAL. The caption really doesn't give a lot of information about him. Or he could have been part of the SOG operation, and that's a studies and observation group of the 1960s. And like this cat right here, these guys were privy and had access to some pretty cool gear. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Yeah, it's a big book. Cool book. It's called NAM. Get a chance to get it. This is a SOG Tech Bowie. It's a great knife. We'll talk about the specifics of this knife. However, in order to fully appreciate it, you're going to have to kind of appreciate the history behind it. And it does tie in with that dude, or guys like him, in the 1960s. In the SOG group, the Studies and Observation group. These were guys that would go behind enemy lines performing clandestine recon missions. And therefore, their capture would not be good. Most of the gear they carried, according to my understanding, was sanitized. They wouldn't carry anything that would give their identity away. No ID cards. Heck, I don't even think they carried rank with them. Part of their kit that they carried, at least from 1966, 1967 on, was what was called the SOG Bowie knife. It came in two versions. It had a 6-inch version, which is the SOG Bowie, then a 7-inch version, which was a recon version. These were made by the CISO office in Okinawa. And I forget what I think it's counterintelligence something. Counterinsurgency support office is what the CISO office meant. And they were the program director for developing this knife, which was subsequently issued to the SOG operatives behind enemy lines. The reason the SOG Bowie knife it has such a cool history is it's assumed, and there's a lot of stories about how successful these blades were in that capacity. And very effective. They were a cheap knife to make back in 1966. It only cost $9.95 to make a SOG Bowie. However, if you find one today, they're going to run you about $1,000. Such is their collector value. Pretty outstanding. There's a couple books on it that are written. One's by Sylvie. I forget the other one. However, there's a lot of history on the SOG Bowie and how it played such a good role, a meaningful role in the Vietnam conflict. The knife itself in the 60s was made by a dude named Conrad Ben Baker, if I remember the name right. And he's the one that actually came up with the scalp design we're going to take a look at. So this is a modern rendition of that knife. In fact, it's a much better rendition if you ask me. This is a SOG Tech Bowie, and it has a lot of improvements over the original Bowie from the 1960s. Let's first take a look at this blade, this much storied and historical blade, if you will. What a beautiful knife that is, and that is one of the great features of all the SOG Bowies. Even from the 1960s, that blade that Ben Baker came out with is that double scalp, and I think he's the designer of the blade. I'm sorry if I don't get the names absolutely right, but I think he's the one to be credited with the beautiful design that we're looking at right here, which has been replicated in many of SOG's lines. So the blades actually back in the 1960s varied from 6.5, or actually 6 inches to 7 inches, the 7 being the recon, again the 6 being the shorter Bowie. And in this SOG Tech Bowie we're looking at now, they kind of split the middle, and it's a 6.5 inch blade. The steel we use in the SOG Tech Bowie is AUS 8, and that's a high chromium, high wear, fairly tough Japanese made steel, analogous to a 440 steel in the US. They're almost identical in my opinion and in my experience, and there's not much difference between them. The nice thing about this SOG Tech Bowie is its coating. As you can see, it's a beautiful black, almost like a black chrome. However, SOG tells us it's a titanium aluminum nitride coating, or TiAIN. The acronym would be TiAIN for that. And its color can be changed according to the mixture of that aluminum oxide. and so they can and have made it a pure black in this case, and then brought it to a high polish. That coating is used for a lot of high-speed tool bits, and they have found that its lubricity really helps in the high-speed tool operations. However, it also and obviously makes a pretty cool blade coating for a knife, and it's very resistant to, again, wear and also corrosion, is my understanding. So it's an AUS 8 blade coated with titanium aluminum nitride in black. Beautiful blade, just nicely executed, and it's got that much heralded SOG Bowie shape. And I'm a fan, like I've talked about in other videos, of that Bowie shape. I think it's excellent, has a nice sweep to it, which works very well. Sorry, that light keeps glinting off that blade. This one I have reprofiled to change the geometry on it. I have sharpened my upper clip to make it more deadly. I like that, and cooler, truth be told. So I'm working at about a 22-degree geometry on that, and this thing is shaving sharp. Nice stamp of SOG specialty knives, and again, SOG, with that super cool SOG Bowie story and the knives, built a knife company on that knife. They do have the other version of this, a SOG Bowie, which is more of a traditional throwback to its predecessor, the Vietnam era knife. It's got the stacked leather handle, the aluminum crossguard, the brass crossguard. Really nice knife. However, my favorite and my leanings are always towards the more modern materials because they're more effective and they're tougher. I remember when I was a kid, I dove with a knife that had is a case knife that had stacked leather washers on it, and I'll tell you, if you get that stuff wet, you're done. It swelled up like Rosie O'Donnell after a donut fest on a Saturday night. It was bad. So I do like the more modern materials, and this would be one of them. So back to the blade, 6.5 inch AUS 8 steel, good steel. It's about a 1/4 inch thick. Got kind of a delicate tip on it, but that is inherent to the SOG Bowie design. It's designed for that thrust attack should we have to. It's got enough belly for a nice sweeping attack should we need it. And also, of course, it functions as a great utility and camp knife as well. The Bowie knife and the Bowie design in general is just very, very versatile. Works in a lot of different ways. Then we come to the crossguard. Nice flare on that for both our upper and bottom fingers. We're not going to come sliding forward. It's polished black, stainless steel. Not sure exact material they're using on the crossguard. And then we get back to the Kraton handle. This is a full tang knife. The tang does come all the way back to the end butt cap, secured with SOG's proprietary screw there with a, you can see their attachment device there. When I see a attachment device like that, that tells me they basically don't want you taking it apart. Anytime you see something that you don't have a tool for, it's not common. The Kraton grip is nice. I like it. It's very ergonomic. The finger indentations are decent and adequate. I like the white line spacers. SOG does make a big deal of this on their write-up for the SOG Bowie, about how good looking it is, and guess what? They're right. It is a striking knife. It's beautiful with a gloss black, the polished guard here, and then the white line spacers. And then we come to the pommel, which is in typical SOG Bowie fashion, true to the original design, where it's squared off, and yes, we can hammer with it for non-lethal blows, tent stakes, whatever we have going on that day. The handle I find is somewhat short for the SOG Tech Bowie. I would like to see maybe a 1/2 inch more. However, it's adequate. 10.5 ounces about for the knife. The whole package together, I think, is around 14 ounces. Let's get to the sheath real quick. I'm running out of time like I always do. Kydex sheath, really nicely done with a snap. It's got the SOG logo in it, excellent. Instead of a tech lock, they have their American Sportsman's Products clip device, which I'm seeing on more and more knives, including Ontario versions, and I think it's a good alternative to the tech lock because it's lighter weight and it seems to fasten securely. I haven't really field tested it vigorously yet, but I assume that it would do just fine. Really nice sheath, fairly lightweight package overall. It's a tough knife, a beautiful knife, and for the price you're going to secure it for, I would add it to my collection, and it would be quite up to any hard use you'd put this knife through. And more importantly, it comes with such a cool history. It's a modern rendition of its predecessors, and yet it inherits every bit of cool factor that they set forth in the 1960s. Thanks for watching. watching. Nutnfancy.